Watch a college student come forth with a gotcha question to Dinesh D'Souza and try to sound smart, and it does not go well for the poor lad. Guys, it's going to be a good one, all right? Spoiler alert. This kid thinks he's pretty smart, and he's got a good little question for D'Souza, but D'Souza is just a little bit smarter. So we're going to get right into it. It's going to be a lot of fun, but first, do me a big favor here. Like our video and share it around so we can keep bringing you guys this great, hard-hitting content. As always, Patriots, I'm your host, Darian, and this is Resist the Mainstream.
If the Democratic Party supporting slavery in the 19th century means the Democratic Party today is racist, so does that mean that Karl Marx and Engels writing for the New York Tribune, Horace Greeley's Republican newspaper in the 1860s, does that mean the Republican Party is the party of socialism today?
We have here an exercise in reasoning that needs to be put into slow motion to be dissected. Okay, so the reasoning is the following. First, you're contending that I contend that because the Democratic Party was the party of slavery before the Civil War, therefore the Democratic Party is racist today. I would submit that I have made no such argument here tonight. For anyone listening fairly, my argument was that the party of slavery prior to the Civil War metamorphosed into the party of racism after the Civil War. And this racism carried well into the 20th century. In fact, when we talk about things like the Klan, it's always amusing to me. People go, well, what about David Duke? This is the precise type of counterexample intended to mislead.
The DEI of today proves that Democrats are racist. I'd even argue the 21st century. Need we say more?
Because if you fairly were to say, let me really look at the topic. Let me make a list of all the Ku Klux Klan leaders, every Grand Dragon and Grand Kleagle, going back to the 1870s to now. And let's just put an R or a D after their name. 99% of them would be Democrats. That's a fact. Yep. The idea of David Duke is a false flag intended to camouflage attention and prevent a legitimate generalization from being made. Now, so the Democratic Party isn't the party of racism because of what happened before slavery. The Democratic Party self-consciously embraced racism after slavery. Lyndon Johnson, this is a very good example because Lyndon Johnson is supposed to be a metaphor for the whole Democratic Party. Yeah, he was kind of a racist in his old Texas country boy days, the narrative goes, but then he became a marvelous, morally enlightened person and championed the Civil Rights Act. I would submit that if you read anything about Lyndon Johnson, you will see that this is a flat-out lie. The fact of the matter is that Lyndon Johnson was routinely using the N-word after the Civil Rights Act. And there is the multiple examples of this from Robert Caro, from Doris Kearns Goodwin, from Lyndon Johnson's own driver. This is corroborated, it's attested, it's indisputable, and yet it is pushed under the rug by progressive historians who need the fake narrative. The fake narrative is the narrative of conversion. There was no conversion. Lyndon Johnson, once a bigot, always a bigot.
Let's not forget that infamous Lyndon B. Johnson quote that people like to conveniently ignore and sweep under the rug. He said, we'll have those N-words voting Democrats for over 200 years. Oh, and by the way, that was when the Civil Rights Act was passing, right around that time. Really, yeah, such an enlightened guy. He really cared about the, little man or the people who were oppressed, right? And make no mistake, Johnson was scumbags in many other ways aside from him being a racist. In fact, he actually provably stole a Senate election for the Texas Senate. Just imagine if he hadn't stolen that. He probably never would have been president of the United States and done these huge transformations he put on our country. Really quite a scary, terrible, and crazy thing to think about.
So now a more interesting question emerges. Why would a bigot promote the Civil Rights Act of 1964? And I would submit that the reason for that is that the bigot realized I can't cash in on white racism anymore. I've got to create a new type of dependent class of people who are now going to have to vote for me, and the very people I've been kicking around.
Well, it's safe to say that he got whacked. Man, just look at the poor dude's face. Oh, doesn't look happy. Now, everybody, this is going to be fun. Let's see what a triggered, proud Latino Democrat has to say to D'Souza about his views on race in America.
I'm a proud Latina, I'm a proud family, come from a proud family of immigrants, and I'm an even prouder Democrat. And my question here today is based off a comment that you said earlier. You said that the merits of the Three-Fifths Compromise is up for debate. So who are you, or who is anyone, to debate the merit of one's humanity? How can you deny the legacy the Three-Fifths Compromise has had and that slavery has had on the extent of racism in the United States?
Look, right here in the first row, I think she got up. There's my wife, Debbie. She's from Venezuela. Her mom is Mexican-American. I'm married to a Latina. She's a first-generation immigrant. I'm a first-generation immigrant. So we're all coming to America and trying to make sense of all this. Now, quite honestly, I think you would have to admit that I have done nothing in this talk today to either minimize or downplay. Far from downplaying racism, I've stressed it. I'm simply pointing the finger of blame where it belongs, and you're trying to hide it. See, the difference is, because you are a Democrat, you are willing to overlook the crimes of the Democratic Party. But let me tell you this, the Democratic Party is in fact, the party of slavery and segregation and Jim Crow and the Ku Klux Klan and lynching and all the horrors of American history, including complicity with the internment of the Japanese Americans in World War II, the reigniting of the Klan in the late teens and 20s. All of this was done by Democrats, and they were opposed all along the way by Republicans. So the problem is that today, if you're a Democrat, you're a committed Democrat, you like the welfare state, you like Obamacare, or you're a progressive historian, you are in the awkward position of having to confess to a whole series of crimes that your team did.
All a bunch of good points. One thing that I think D'Souza didn't mention, but I'm sure he very well knows, is that the Three-Fifths Compromise was actually kind of an anti-slavery thing by its nature when you think about it. Hear me out, all right? Back when they ratified it in the Constitution back in, the 1770s, the reason why that was put in place was because essentially the jurisdictions that owned slaves said, hey, we want every single slave, right, which by definition was not a free man nor somebody who could vote at the time, to be counted as a full person in terms of representation purposes for Congress. And a lot of people also don't know this. Many of the founding fathers were actually ardently opposed to slavery and basically said, look, we can't call ourselves a nation of like free people under God and all that kind of stuff when we are having people enslaved. It doesn't make any sense and it's evil. But there were, of course, political realities at the time that they had to deal with, and they couldn't just abolish slavery at the snap of a finger. That happened, of course, about 100 years after that. 100 years after that, technically speaking, but that's a whole nother discussion. Point being, them saying, okay, as a compromise, we'll let the slaves only be 3 out of 5 people represented. It was actually done to weaken the power of the slave-owning jurisdictions. Yet so many people will simplistically and stupidly look at this and say, oh, this is so evil. This racism. The United States counted black people as 3/5 of a person. Listen, dummy, if they were counting them as a full person for the purpose of that would by definition give more power to the slave owners, okay? Why are people so simple-minded and silly sometimes? I don't get it. Now, let's watch D'Souza cook.
Crimes, by the way, that the Democratic Party has never admitted, never apologized for, never paid 1 penny of restitution for. So this is a very ugly position to be in. And the only way to do it is to lie through your teeth. Hide the actions of the Democratic Party. Blame everybody else. America did it. The white man did it. The Southerners did it. Everybody except the guys who actually did it.
Boom! I think D'Souza laid out that argument very well, and he's totally correct. Guys, I am so sick and tired of this race baiting. If you are too, hit that subscribe button down below so you can see more of this good stuff, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for tuning in, and God bless.